here being able to navigate to two different components by different routes, we're now going to add the services, right? The client-side service that can go and fetch the data from the server. Right? Basically, we want to be able to do this that we're doing from the browser. We want to be able to do that programmatically, right? Either ask for all the quotes or ask for a particular quote that we want to render. Yes? All right. So let's do that. And we're gonna grab those two functionalities and put it in a single file, right? Called the quote service .js. It'll be a JavaScript file, and it's gonna host all the data access. Right, so let's go here, and under services, we're gonna create quote service.js. Okay. So here we're gonna create a class that's going to implement the Singleton design pattern. So this is class quote service, right? It's going to host a single instance that's going to be the same instance across the entire application, right? As opposed to instantiating every time the quote service every time we need it. There'll be just one of these, right, for the entire application. So to do that, we're going to use static, and we're going to declare the instance, and we're going to initialize it to be null at first. Then we're going to create a function that instead of us instantiating it, we're going to delegate it to a static function. Right? We're not going to want to instantiate this ourselves. Instead, it's always going to go through this get instance so that it always returns the same instance. So we're going to check that if this.instance is null, then we're going to instantiate it. We're going to say this.instance equal new quote service. Quote service. If it's not null, meaning it has been already instantiated by someone else, we're just going to return the existing instance. Make sense? Obviously, in addition to this, we would typically also make the constructor private, right? So that no one can actually instantiate this other than ourselves internally. But you cannot make the constructor private in React. So that we'll have to make sure that other folks make sure that don't instantiate these instances other than ourselves. Anyway, so the quote service is going to be responsible for hosting all the finder methods, all the gets, the create, the deletes, the updates that want to talk to the server would go through this one service here. Okay. So in particular, let's implement first the find all quotes. Okay, and what find all quotes is going to do is going to want to go and fetch this quotes from the server. So to do that, we're going to use a function called fetch. Okay, so fetch is a programmatic mechanism for being able to generate these HTTP requests. Right. So basically, what we want to be able to do is we want to do this, right? We're going to be able to send this request, right? And then this would come back with the quotes from the server. Now, by default, fetch sends a get, which is exactly what we're doing here, right? You know, when the browser, the only thing that the browser could do is generate a get to the server, unless you use forms and you can do a post. But typically, this is the most normal operation is to generate a get. And that's exactly what fetch does by default. If you want to use post, delete, put, or something else, you need to configure it. Right? You need to provide a configuration object after that, but we don't need it. All right. Also, fetch by default works asynchronously, meaning this request is going to go out to the server, but the JavaScript is not going to wait for this response to come back. Right? JavaScript has a single thread, and it cannot risk this single thread being tied up with this request to the server. Right? So instead, what fetch does is that it delegates the job to the browser, because the browser has any number of threads. It says, hey browser, do this request for me, and at some point notify me when the response comes back. Right? When the response comes back from the server. So to do that, so this mechanism of working with these asynchronous resources and wrapping the response around a meta object is called working with promises. Right? What fetch really returns is fetch returns immediately. Even before the response has come back. Right? It returns an object which is called a promise object, which allows us to register for a callback, saying, hey, when the response comes back at some point in the near future, hopefully, right? Let me know what the response is. Call this function here, right, and pass me the response from the server, because I want to extract from the body of the response. I want to extract a JSON object, right? Hopefully, that JSON object will contain an array of quote objects in there, right? Hopefully. So I want to retrieve that. I want to parse it, and that's what I'm going to return. That's what I'm going to return, the actual JSON object that comes back in the body of the response. Everybody okay? Right? All right, excellent. So who's going to use this? Well, first of all, we're going to have to export this to make this available. Quote service, and so if we revisit the quotes is going to be using this service. So let's write the quotes that's going to use this, right, to fetch the actual quotes from the server.